Welcome to Cheat the Spread, powered by 613 Sports.
Welcome everybody to episode 2 of Cheat the Spread. Thank you for joining us for our second week. Hopefully you got some nice money from us last week. Hopefully you followed some of our picks and got what was good. Before we get into that though, I'm your co-host Cameron Shadat. I'm joined here today by Jack Lovett. How's it going today, Jack?
I'm doing pretty good. Mixed bag last week, but definitely had some winners. So I don't know if you want to start off our recap of last week. But
For sure. So last week I went 2-1 on my picks. Luckily my lock and my dog were both able to hit. Unfortunately, the teasers did not go as I would have hoped last week. A little tough. Our joint pick went 0-1. The Falcons let us down. Matt Ryan threw 3 interceptions, was not looking nice. But Jack had a pretty nice week as well with your record. How'd that go for you?
pretty good, 5-3. I felt like my handicapping across the board was honestly pretty strong. I don't mean to gloat, but I'm in a pick'em pool with over 30 people, and I came in second out of all 30. And yet, betting-wise, I ended up...
Not a big deal.
Not a big deal. But betting-wise, I did end up down, which is frustrating because I feel like the things I chose to bet didn't go so well. But obviously, my lock in the Texans was a dud. The Texans just got destroyed. The angle I hope you stole from me in that game was David Montgomery, first touchdown. That hit at plus 700, so I turned 375 into $30. So that sort of helped ease the damage of some of my other bad picks. But the Cardinals showed out well against the Giants, so that was another good one. But yeah, pretty good week. Some duds, but a couple prop hits. So looking forward. Stay strong.
Exactly. If you followed our right bets, you followed us properly, you would have hopefully won some money last week. So hopefully you're back again for week 2. We can get you some more money. We also got to touch on what we learned last week and also an honorable mention to the Browns spread. Anybody who had money on that Browns and Ravens spread, that is a tough way. That's a bad beat. That is a bad beat of the week. We might not say anything like that for a little while.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, the spread was -3 in that game for the Ravens. And on the very last play, the Browns were trying a little trick play, just kind of keep tossing it around, hoping they get there. Ended up getting a safety. So they ended up losing by 5, forcing the Ravens cover. So that's definitely a tough way to lose. Also, a very tough way to lose was Jack and I were both very optimistic about the Texans last week, like he mentioned, and that did not come to fruition whatsoever. That was tough. We also, Jack, how did the totals go for us last week?
So this is the most frustrating part of our week last week. We both had teaser legs involving totals. For me, both in the Titans game and in the Bucks game, we had the overs teased down, and especially in the Titans game, it was 31-10 going into the fourth. We literally needed 5 points for a push at 46, and Gardner Minshew, as Cam was telling me yesterday, just couldn't put points on the board. Yeah, so that's our moral of the week. We're going to start staying a bit more away from totals because I just feel like there's games that, like that Titans-Jags game was an over, and it just, like, the points didn't come, they didn't convert. So I'm going to start staying away from totals, and if I am playing totals, I think it's under season. I know Browns-Ravens was combined for 87, so that maybe doesn't help my case, but I think we're seeing divisional matchups, we're seeing more playoff football, and I think last week was a big under week, so that's where I'm going to lean going forward.
And you'll see this week as we get into some of our picks, you're going to notice a lot more of the action Jack and I have is more towards just covering spreads and stuff like that for this week, staying away from the totals as much as we can. Also, we are, like we said, this week it's going to focus mostly on the NFL still again. That is our favorite thing, San Fran out here repping. But we are going to sprinkle in a little bit of some college football action as well this week. And as we diversify going forward, probably mix in some more college basketball and stuff like that as we get moving here. But let's get right into it. Our overreactions and underreactions from last week. I'm going to go ahead and get started with my overreaction. We're seeing Houston right now as plus 7-point underdogs to Indianapolis. I think that's a bit of an overreaction. Listen, I know Houston got smacked. Jack and I kind of got a bit embarrassed on that one last week with our picks. But I did not know Brandon Cooks was not going to play for that game. He's expected to return for this week. So that's going to be huge for Houston. And also, I think it was just 2-3 weeks ago, we saw Houston. They honestly had a chance to beat Indy. It was the very last drive of the game. They were down in the red zone, down by 6. Houston was at, I think, first, second, and goal, something like that. And they did turn it over on the goal line. But they were in position to win that game. So I think Houston, by a full touchdown underdog, is a bit of an overreaction. I know they got slapped by the Bears, but Deshaun Watson, he's been playing lights out the past 2 months of the season. Whenever you have this kind of odds against Deshaun Watson, I think that's a bit of an overreaction. Never bet against Deshaun Watson. Alabama will tell you that firsthand. It doesn't go well.
I agree with that. I do think last week was a bad matchup. I was worrying about the run game against Houston, and I think it was just a game off the bat. They got punched in the mouth. But Houston was the right side of that earlier Colts matchup, as you said, fumble at the goal line, but they were right on pace to at least cover the spread. So yeah, I agree. I do think the Houston +7 is an overreaction. For my underreaction this week, I'm going to look to a team that made me look kind of smart last week. I'm going to look to the Denver Broncos. And so this play is really just me trying to be contrarian. When you're looking at the market in the NFL betting market is really hard to beat, as we find out, which is why we get so mad every week. But so I try to look at who is being overvalued, and I think the team being overvalued is this team right behind me, the Buffalo Bills, who we did just stomp the Steelers. We do look great, but I just think this is a spot this week, going to Mile High, Buffalo, Denver, where Denver could come out and maybe win the game, but they're going to keep it close. I think Denver getting a full touchdown at home after looking pretty impressive defensively against the Chiefs, and after winning last week, I think it's too many points. I think this line should be maybe Bills 5 at the most. And as I'm going to mention later in my teaser segment, yeah, I like Denver this week. I think Denver has some upset potential, and something else you can do, teasing them up into double digits, is going to look appealing later in the show.
I agree now that Drew Lock is finally wearing his mask again. He's looking like he's on a fire out there, 4 TDs. But moving right along into our stayaways for this week. This one hits close to home. As you might have heard last week, I am not a big Nick Mullins fan, so my stayaway is the Niners versus Cowboys. Nick Mullins, if you ever hear this, please get as far away from the 49ers as you possibly can. No, but I don't want you here anymore, man. I want Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, even give me back Jimmy G. Nick Mullins has cost the Niners so many games this year. Cost us the Eagles game. Cost us the game against the football team last past week with 2 defensive touchdowns being scored. The Niners defense did not give up an offensive touchdown the whole game. How do you lose a game? Alex Smith got hurt. It was Dwayne Haskins. Not a single offensive TD the whole game. And Nick Mullins somehow always does Nick Mullins things and finds ways to lose. So for that specific reason alone, the Niners, in a perfect world, they should win this game. They're a better team than the Cowboys. Even with all their injuries, they still are a better team. But as far as I'm concerned, you cannot bet on Nick Mullins. And I hate betting on the Cowboys as well, so I'm just staying as far away as I can from this game. I was right last week with my stay away. I said Saints and Eagles. I said don't sleep on Jalen Hurts. Stay away from that game. And I was right. The Eagles ended up pulling off the upset. So this is my stay away for this week. Stay away from Nick Mullins. If you could learn one thing, do not bet on Nick Mullins or the Cowboys.
I think that's a good moral to take away. Although I think in a weird way, Nick Mullins is actually helping your case by giving you more losses and maybe helping
the tank, but
he's helping the Trey Lance mission. Might be a good look out of the mid-major. Yeah, I agree. Nick Mullins has not been reliable for you guys. My stay away for this week is a point spread that should never appear on an NFL card. It is the Rams having to lay 17.5 points at home versus the Jets. And as bad as the Jets are, and as high on the Rams as I am, as Cam has pointed out as an error, he doesn't think the Rams are as good as I do, you just can't lay 17.5 points. Like, I don't see any incentive for the Rams to blow the doors off the Jets. I don't see a reason that they can't cover the back door. I think this is going to look a lot like the Patriots game, where the Rams just completely stifle the Jets. Sam Darnold might do absolutely nothing, get injured or whatever, but 17.5 you just can't do in the NFL. And so that's sort of a philosophical thing of can't lay that many points. If you're making me pick it, I would take the Jets, but I'm just going to stay away.
I definitely agree with that. I think we've seen firsthand last week the Rams have no problem with once they get a lead, just running the clock down and not really putting too much stock in the offense. 17.5 points, that's a lot, man. I know the Jets got stomped by the Seahawks, but they were one play away from beating the Raiders not just 2 weeks ago. So I definitely agree. 17.5 is an insane spread, and I definitely would not touch that as well. But moving into a segment we both did pretty well on last week, actually, our lock, dog, and tease. This is thankfully where I went 2-1. I think Jack struggled a little bit with his lock, but we both did pretty well. Getting into our locks, we're going to discuss this even more later, but my lock this week is the Dolphins -1.5 at home against the Patriots. Listen, I don't know who's making the line for this game. I know the Dolphins are a little banged up, but the Dolphins are fighting for their life. I know the Pats are too, but the Dolphins have been such a better team so far this year, and they're getting -1.5 only. Me and Jack, when we first started talking about our picks this week, they was originally at 2.5, and then it moved down to 2 yesterday, and now today, which is Thursday, it's down to -1.5. So if you can get this line before it goes back up, which I think it will, get on this Dolphins line ASAP. There is no way the Dolphins should not cover this spread, and if they don't, I don't know what I'm going to do, honestly, because they should definitely cover this spread, and that's just great value. -1.5 against the Pats, who have not been looking good since they played the Chargers, which scored 3 defensive TDs. The Dolphins should cover this spread easily.
Absolutely, yeah. When we were talking about this, we were trying to figure out reasons why this is so low. We think maybe there's some leftovers of the Patriots dynasty. People just aren't willing to accept the Pats are dumb, but they just don't have offense. And this is a Miami defense that got 3 interceptions off Patrick Mahomes last week. Yeah, that game was a bit ugly. Maybe the Dolphins weren't the right side, but they covered. And the Dolphins are an 8-3 against the spread team this year. They're a moneymaker, so you got to ride them against this shell of a Patriots team. All right, so looking at my lock this week, I'm actually going to look to the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are playing the Saints. Taysom Hill didn't look good last week, so I am worried about that. I'm sort of banking against the team that didn't look good last week, which is generally not what you want to do. You want to look to be contrarian, but under a field goal with the Kansas City Chiefs in New Orleans, I mean, Mahomes versus Taysom Hill, I don't think Breeze is going to play. It looks like he's still roughed up with his ribs, so you're telling me I can get Mahomes or if at a field goal or less, I'm taking the Kansas City Chiefs, and I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, definitely. I put some action on that as well for this week. I definitely feel pretty confident. Like I've said in the past, you always got to go with the better QB, and I mean, that one's not even close. But moving into my underdog for this week, this one, I still think I'm taking Notre Dame plus 10 against Clemson. I'm a big Clemson guy, and I think that Clemson will still win this game. I think that with Trevor Lawrence back, they'll be able to pull off the victory that eluded them earlier in the year. But Notre Dame is the higher-ranked team. They have beaten Clemson in the past, and these two teams always play close games. No matter what, they always play close games. So 10 points is honestly, it's just great value. A 2-score underdog against for the higher-seeded team, I don't see how that makes any sense. So I'm on Notre Dame as the underdog in this game, plus 10. I think they will cover that line pretty easily, and hopefully we can win some more money for you guys.
Absolutely. 10 points is definitely way too many for a Notre Dame team that's under the radar. Ian Book's been pretty impressive. For my dog this week, I'm looking at the New York Football Giants, which I know on the surface is a bit questionable. You're seeing a team that got dusted by the Cardinals last week, which I predicted nicely, and going against a Browns team that was just a part of maybe the game of the year against the Ravens, right? And so I think this is a spot where you can, use people's perception against them. I think people think the Browns are in a different class than the Giants, when actually I think the Giants are well suited to stop a lot of what the Browns can do. Giants are, I think, top 5 against the run. They're certainly up there. I think they can stifle a lot of what Chubb and Hunt can do. And I think the top corner, Bradbury, is going to be able to do a lot of good things against Jarvis Landry. I just think they can neutralize a lot of what they can do. I don't know if Daniel Jones is back, but honestly, Colt McCoy kind of looked better managing the offense.
Danny Dimes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, look, I think 5 points is too many. I think I'll sprinkle on the Giants' money line. I think this line should be a pick. Giants at home. So Giants plus 5. That's my dog.
Yeah, I mean, I did see earlier today, though, I don't believe Jason Garrett will be calling plays for the Giants this weekend. I believe he has COVID. But
interesting.
That might change a little bit. Might also move the line even more in favor of the Browns, though, which could possibly add some more extra value to that. We'll have to follow that situation closely up until the games and stuff like that, but definitely adds a little extra twist, and I still think I agree the Giants could be able to cover that spread pretty easily. But moving into our teaser for this week, like we said, it was me and Jack usually love betting on teasers. Last week was tough with all the unders hitting. Unfortunately, we had the overs. But this week, I'm on the Titans. I'm going to tease them all the way 7 points up to minus 3.5 and under 58.5 against the Detroit Lions. I think we saw the Tennessee Titans do pretty well against the Jags last week, and unfortunately, their defense decided to actually show up for once, and it made me and Jack lose our bet. So for that reason, I'm going to react a little bit, and I'm going to hit the under on this one. With the Lions, Stafford is not expected to play. Kenny Golladay hasn't played in 2 months. I don't think he's going to play either. And so, honestly, at that point, you got to take the under. I don't think the Lions will be able to put up too many points. Tennessee should steamroll them. Derrick Henry should have another day and a half. But that's why we're taking Tennessee minus 3.5, and we're going to go under 58.5 in Tennessee and Detroit.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Detroit bottom 5 against the run. Derrick Henry rolling. And I do think the under is a good look here because I just think we're at a point of the year where teams want to run the clock out. I don't know if there's much incentive to destroy a Chase Daniel-led Lions team, so I think that's a good play. For my teaser, I'm going to do the opposite of last week. Last week, my teaser looks were taking favorites down to 1, and this week, I'm going to take dogs up to double digits because my 2 alternative dogs I was looking at, I think 6 points is too many for this Eagles team against the Cardinals, and I think 7 points is too much for this Denver team in Buffalo. So I'm going to take Philadelphia. As of right now, the lines I think are both 6, so I would wait to do this because I think Denver line may go back up to 7, but I'm taking Philadelphia to 12. I'm taking Denver to plus 13. And this is a play on keeping it close. I think those teams are both feisty and can keep it close in their respective games. That's going to be my play. I'm going to go a bit contrarian because usually I like to tease favorites, but in this spot, I'm going to take the dogs up.
Sure, and would you be hitting the over or the under on those games?
So Denver Bills lean over slightly. For the Philly-Arizona, I actually considered making it Philly plus 12 and under 55 because I think Arizona and Philly is a sneaky rushing game with Kyler, Jalen Hurts going back and forth. So I would lean under for Philly, over for Denver.
For sure. And then so I definitely did some value there as well. And then did you have any bonus picks you might want to just kind of briefly mention for people to follow at all?
Sure. So since you had the Notre Dame pick, I was inspired. Obviously, it's college conference championship weekend. A lot of great games coming up. And the one I want to lock in early and that I've already placed is Buffalo U team total over 40.5 points against Ball State in the MAC championship. The MAC is the worst conference in college football, but it's really exciting because there's not very much defense. I don't know if you guys saw the end of that Ball State Western Michigan game last week where everyone rushed the field and it was kind of a pandemonium, but I think Buffalo U is going to put up points, and I was either looking at lane 13.5 or I could take the team total over 40.5, and I just think over 40.5 is more guaranteed in the MAC, inside Ford Field, in a dome, just an offensive pariah, and yeah, because I could see Ball State getting a backdoor and maybe putting up 31, so I think it's just safer to get Buffalo over 40.5. I have a full unit on that, so I'm pretty confident in that play.
For sure, yeah, just a little bonus action for you guys there. I think we've all seen the crazy numbers the running back in Buffalo's been putting up this year, so we can tell there's not a whole lot of defense going on out there. Speaking of individual performances, we're going to move over to some player prop bets now. Now, as you guys know, we do record this show on Thursdays, so that is the problem. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of prop action usually listed by the time we do these shows, so these are not going to be our picks. They're just some lines that if you guys are looking for some prop action, definitely check these out, and we'll kind of explain to you why there's some value in these picks that Jack and I have listed out for you guys here.
For sure. So the prop matchups that I was looking at for this week, obviously this is preliminary and more based on matchup than actual numbers, but Justin Jefferson had a down week last week and he didn't hit his prop for the first time in I want to say it's like 4 or 5 weeks. And so when that happens, that is a great time to find out value because the books are going to base it off last week's performance largely. So Justin Jefferson, I think his line right now is projected to be around 67. And I would definitely look over on that. Anything under 70, I would look Jefferson over. I think Dalvin Cook is going to get stifled against Chicago in their earlier matchup in Chicago. He still managed to hit over on his rushing prop, but he was really limited, and they really had to give him a ton of touches to get there. So I think Cook's going to be stifled, and that's going to mean air it out to Thielen, Jefferson. So Jefferson over 70 in a divisional matchup. I think that's really comfy. The other one I want to mention was Jamal Williams over 30 rush yards against Carolina. Green Bay is going to roll Carolina at home, I'm pretty sure. And that means that they're going to be running the ball, and that means they're going to be spreading out the touches. And Jamal Williams has been hitting his prop a lot. He's the backup. So you could get this line as low as 25, and I think there's good value there. Yeah, so I don't know. The other one I was looking at was Dalvin Cook under 100 rushing yards. To me, that line is just going to be a Joe line where the public is going to love taking Dalvin Cook over. So maybe if you want to wait till the game time and take his under, I think that could be a smart contrarian play.
For sure, yeah. Like we said, obviously these lines can move quite a bit between now and Sunday, and there's things on Saturday as well this week. So keep an eye on them, keep track of them. Jack and I are going to keep track of them as well. But we can't make any definitive picks because, like we said, there's not many listed on the sites we used to be betting on right now. And getting into our joint pick, hopefully we can get that record back to at least 500 this week. Unfortunately, we're upset by the Falcons last week. We talked all that shit about Anthony Lynn, but unfortunately, Matt Ryan would not be outdone and somehow threw 3 interceptions and cost the Falcons the game. Chargers found a way to win. So trying to rebound this week, Jack and I are going to be taking my lock as well. Dolphins minus 1.5 against the Pats. Jack, do you want to go a little bit more in depth into this one since I already kind of gave my thoughts on it?
Yeah, the Dolphins are an undervalued team. I mean, 8-3 against the spread, as I mentioned earlier. This defense is legit. They gave Patrick Mahomes a lot of problems. Imagine what they're going to do to Cam Newton. And I like Cam Newton, but he's just not the answer. Yeah, it's Belichick, but it's going up against a Belichick disciple who knows a lot of what he does. Brian Flores has given Belichick troubles. I don't know. He won last year in the upset, and I think the Patriots won the first one this year, but maybe that's just more motivation. I don't see the Dolphins losing this game. I really don't. I'm with you. So I think that's our rationale.
I definitely agree. I think we've touched on this one quite a bit, so I won't get too repetitive with it. That is Jack and I's picks for this week. As you saw last week, hopefully we won you some money. Jack, I went 2-1. Jack went 5-3. Unfortunately, our joint pick didn't hit, but if you follow the right bets, we hope to win all of you guys some money. Jack, is there anything you want to say before we sign off here?
Not too much. I mean, we're getting into a weird part of the season where, you start to question, I guess, some teams' agenda. We're getting to the point where there's teams maybe jockeying for draft position, but there are definitely some great value picks this week, some spots where you can find an edge, and hopefully we gave you some good advice, and best of luck with all your wagers.
For sure. Hopefully you guys can win some money this weekend. Check us out on Instagram. You can see both of our Instagrams down below me right here. Also check us out, 613_sports on Instagram. We post all of our picks there every week. Eddie's doing a great job with those graphics. Make sure to check us out, 613sportsblog.com, 613_sports on Twitter. And as Eddie likes to say, knuckleheads, stay out the box and check us out next week. Peace.
Yeah, I'm leaving. on me, man. I got diamonds, but they say that I don't need them. She gon' need me when she need me. I've been rolling through my thoughts and you can